The Biden administration is banning the Russian government from paying bondholders through American banks. It's a move which increases the chances that Russia will default on its outstanding debt. Brian Cheung is here with us. Birthday boy, Brian Cheung.
Oh, happy birthday once
yes.
again.
To explain what it all means. So, Brian, this it's another form of sanction.
Yeah.
Right? How's it going to work?
Well, essentially, all you need to know is that this is going to be one step closer to Russia perhaps being unable to pay its obligations on its government debt, which is held by bondholders around the world. At least here in the United States, the movement from the Treasury will not allow U.S. bondholders to take payments from Russia, which could constitute a lack of fulfillment of the obligation of the Russian government to pay its bondholders. Now, we've talked about this story before, so let's rewind and take a look at the timeline. You'll recall that this was a discussion we were having in April when payments were due on U.S. dollar-denominated Russian bonds. Now, the Russian government allegedly tried to pay some of those bonds in Russian rubles, but again, because they're supposed to be U.S. dollar-denominated, some argument out there about whether or not Russia had fulfilled its obligations. There was a 30-day grace period to make those payments right. Apparently, the government did end up making that right. But then May 25th, as of today, there will be that exemption on Russian debt payments to U.S. investors no longer in effect. So even though U.S. bondholders through the entirety of this month were able to get paid, in theory, from this point on, if there is another round of Russian debt that's due, which is coming actually as of Friday, they will no longer be able to take that money, even if Russia has it. So that's why it's very important to make the distinction between Russia having the money to pay the bondholders, which it probably does, and the bondholders not actually getting the money, which the Treasury is kind of blocking in this case.
And how much debt are we talking about, and how much of Russia's debt is U.S. held versus
and in Bitcoin or anything else?
Yeah, whatever. Like, how does it all map out?
So to distinctify again here, there's a difference between the reserves that the Russian central bank has and then the amount of debt that exists out there. It's hard to make an apples to apples comparison between the two of them because, first of all, it's not so easy to look into the domestic Russian bondholders. There's not a lot of readily available data to see whether or not they're meeting the obligations on those. But because a lot of those are Russian ruble denominated, you can probably assume that the Russian government is making good on those payments. However, when it comes to the amount of U.S. dollar denominated debt that's due, one possible way that you can look into this is the amount of payments that are due specifically on the next due date, which is actually this Friday. About $107 million, which, by the way, is not all that much, is going to be due in either dollars, euros, pounds, or Swiss francs. The assumption is that the Russian government will be able to make that. Really, the big payment that's due in June, $400 million, that's going to be the larger one that we'll be watching for. And again, now that the U.S. government has said, well, if you're a U.S. bondholder, you can't get those payments, even if Russia wants to pay that to you. If they don't make that completion on that payment, you'll start to see ratings agencies perhaps say, well, you know what? Maybe this could be a default because they didn't meet those obligations.